Hey HBs, you're listening to Heaving Bosoms, the podcast where two best friends recap romance novels while making chainsaw noises and giggling.
Gonna love what we love, do it out loud. Stack our shelves with the clinches out. Shout it from the rooftop, can you hear the sound? Yeah. Live your best life, love it out loud. Love it out loud.
Welcome back, y'all! And if you're a new listener, thanks for giving us a chance. This is part 2 of The Butcher and the Blackbird by Megan Bannon. If you haven't listened to part 1 yet, that came out yesterday, so definitely start there. Don't forget, this Friday we have our Patreon watch party. We're watching Magic Mike XXL, and I'm muy excited about it. Okay, when we left off yesterday, these sexy beasts had just had their first kiss in a barn. It was pouring outside. You remember the scene. And they were about to confront a chainsaw-wielding killer. All right, here we go. And then he does the sexiest thing in the world. Tell them.
Sexiest thing.
Tell them right now.
He grabs an axe and walks over to like a hiding spot. And she's like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah.
And he rests the handle of the axe on his shoulder and huffs and then winks at her. And
Yeah.
he says, "Getting revenge for hurting my girl, of course." Sir.
Come
I
on.
mean, put it away. Now is
on.
not the time. But also, like, it's definitely the time. Keep coming. Keep
It's
going.
always the time. So then Harvey comes around that corner, and Rowan does the smartest thing in the whole wide world. He doesn't go for a lumberjack chop. No. He lets the head of that axe swing down toward the ground and then back up again. It hits the chainsaw, breaks the chain off, and that chain goes straight into Harvey's face. He has no idea where this even came from, right? And he's just like, "Bah!" And then Rowan hits him again, and then he's got him on the ground, and as he's about to, like, really fuck him up, she's like, Stop. Our agreement was that if you get him, I get to take something." And he's like, "Yep, okay." He just nods. And then she says, "But that doesn't mean you can't, keep him busy before I'm back."
So she leaves for a hot minute and goes into the house. And then she comes back into the barn. And we don't know. I knew exactly what she was doing, but like,
Same,
we don't know
but we
on
don't know
page what she's
for
doing.
sure.
And Rowan looks over his shoulder at her and he looks elated.
And they're
joy.
both giggling like little mice with the cat away.
And so he moves so that Harvey can't see her. And then all of a sudden.
Also, when she walks in, he is nailing Harvey's hand to the ground.
So it can't move. And so all of a sudden, she drops Mama Mead, the corpse of Harvey's mother.
And she's doing a puppet show up his body.
And she says, "You've been a terribly bad boy, Harvey," I say in my best imitation of an old woman's voice as I continue sliding the corpse toward Harvey's face.
Good boys don't chop people up with chainsaws.
Mama Mead and Harvey finally come face to face.
I think you deserve to be punished.
Oh my God, he's shaking. He is like white as a sheet. He's trying to bat her away. He's going, trying to bat her away.
Even Rowan says, "This is very dark."
And she's like, "Oh, Harvey, come right here."
Her curved fingers stroke his face before I hook them into the corner of his mouth.
Hold on, son. I just want to crawl inside and have a look around.
And then Harvey screams, and then it cuts off like he can't breathe, and he goes blue, and that man literally died from a heart attack. Sloan scared scared him to death.
And she is disappointed. She's like, I had so much more in me.
She's like, wow, you really suck at this, Harvey, huh?
God. And he's like, but you should, Rowan is like, you should really be proud of yourself, Sloan. And she's like, I just had so much more to give. Really?
Oh my God. It was so fucking beautiful.
I'm obsessed. I'm obsessed. So they light the place on fire and then they go. And they're going to drive from Texas to Nebraska because that is where his little brother is, I guess, judging from the blurb of the third book, trying to mend a broken heart in small town Nebraska. Mm-hmm. Oh my God.
So Harvey literally left the imprint of his boot on her face. You can see Carhartt across her forehead.
Logo on her forehead.
While they're driving, though, he's like, he can't figure out what his emotions are doing because, like, they're all intertwining. Like, fear is fusing with hope, care with control, envy with sadness. It's fucking everything all at once. And then it's so quiet, and he can't stop thinking about her and how when they're apart, he feels her absence, and he worries about her and dreams about her. And then yesterday, he almost lost her. Yeah. And, like, killing is what brought them together, and neither of them can live without it, but
it's not more important than her.
He specifically says, my obsessions push me to a cliff I'm bound to fall over, and there might not be an end to the drop once I do. And like he's talking about her as an obsession, and it's like, oh God, and he's taking care of her.
I read it as double-sided, right? Because on the one hand, his obsession with her will lead to a drop that doesn't end with, like, falling in love, right? But on the other hand, I think he's really grappling with the fact that his obsession with killing, his need to kill, often leads to a devolution, often devolves into, like, a sort of serial killer madness that gets them caught. And so if she is around him, if he hits that point, or if they hit that point together, if they continue down this obsession road of killing people together, there's a really good chance that he could get her killed or locked up forever. And like, that is something that he's really having a hard time with.
Yeah.
And it's just like really sunk in now because of how injured she is.
But it's very cute while they're driving because she's covered in a little blankie, and he does lay his hand on her thigh over the blanket, and he's like, oh man, I wonder if like that's too much. And then she tucks her good hand into his, and his little heart goes, but.
Oh yeah.
And he's like, not so dead on the inside after all.
Oh my God. I love them.
Oh my God. And then when he's helping her get dressed, though, of important note, listener.
Yes, please tell us all.
She's, again, not wearing a bra. And he notices it through the bra or she is wearing a bra because she didn't have a shirt. And he got her a shirt from a gas station, and he's helping her get into that shirt. And he realizes that there's something in that bra that wasn't there before. And he's like, oh my God, her nipples are pierced now.
Does she have a nipple piercing now?
And the answer is yes, my friend.
Yeah,
so
she does.
Since, 3 years ago, she's gotten her nipples pierced. And he's like, I'm still sitting here with a raging heart on, immersed in fantasies of how I'm going to torture her into telling me everything about those nipple piercings. And I'm like, yeah, you are, Rowan. Yeah, you are.
So they get to his brother's house and they try to go in, and he's like, hello, Peckerhead or whatever weird nickname they have for each other. And he gets walloped in the head with a crutch. And this woman he's never seen before, this banshee, he says, is yelling at them, being like, what are you doing here? What do you want? Chunk, chunk, chunk. And he grabs the crutch from her, which hilariously she describes later as stealing her crutch. And I'm like, Rose, that's not really what he was doing.
I cannot wait for her.
Same. Especially since I think she is the murderer in that book. Because there's got to be a murderer in every book, right? Lachlan's the murderer. I don't know. I only read like the first part of the blurb. But Lachlan is the murderer in Leather and
He's
Lark.
literally a killer for hire. Like, that's what his
contract killer.
job is. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think she's the killer because he's not. We know for a fact that he's not, this doctor. Anyway, so she gets his brother on the phone because poor Sloane is like, hey, can we take it down 3 notches? Because I need medical attention, if that's possible. And Rose is like, did he do that to you? She's like, no, he did not. And she's like, I bet. Yeah, okay, sure.
He's really more of a Converse guy. Like, this has Carhartt on it. Like,
right. And so finally they get him on the phone and he demands him to tell them what his childhood nickname was for confirmation of identity. And he's like, no, I will not do that. And Rose is like, okay, cool. I'll just beat the shit out of you. Like, get out. And then finally he's like, shit flicker.
Wait, very importantly though.
Yeah.
When Sloane introduces Rowan, she's like, he's Rowan. He's my boy, a man guy. I'm with here. And Rowan's like, man guy. Real smooth, Blackbird.
Super eloquent. Nice work. She's like, stop it.
Oh my God. But then, okay, so Shit Flicker is his childhood nickname. And a little bit later, like after Rose is fucked off and is doing things, she's like, I really want to know how the Shit Flicker name came to be. Mm-hmm. And he says, Sloane. And she says, was it your own shit you flicked or like someone else's regularly? And like, why? And he says, you're lucky you're injured. Mm-hmm. And she says, oh yeah? Why is that?
Oh my God, tell us.
I drift closer, push into her space. She resists the urge to sink deeper into the cushions as her breath hitches. My hand folds around her throat, one finger at a time, pressing into her skin, her pulse like music beneath my palm. She shivers when my lips graze her earlobe. Because I'd bend you over my knee and spank that perfect ass of yours until it glows. And then do you want to know what I'd do? Yes?
Yeah.
I'd teach you a lesson about wanting to come so badly you have to beg for it. And once I was sure you'd learned that lesson, I'd teach you about wanting to stop coming so badly you beg for that too. Oh my God. And he's like, and then he's like holding onto her whole like thing, her whole fucking body is pounding. And then he says, you're trembling, little bird. And I detonated. Okay. Like I exploded. And I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah. So they do the whole medical attention thing, right? And then we come into one of the chapters with her having a memory nightmare about the night that she and Lark solidified their familial bond, basically. She has a memory of Lark holding her on a couch and like crying and singing Bye Bye Blackbird and petting her hair and being like, you can come live with me and my parents will help us out and we'll figure out what to do. Because their headmaster is dead on the floor. And she's thinking to herself, the most terrible part is that I don't feel bad at all. The thing I want the most is for him to get up so that I can kill him again.
Yeah.
And it's so good. But then he's like, hey, Blackbird, little bird, it's just a nightmare. It's okay. Go ahead. What? Go.
Keep going. I'm just so fucking excited about this next scene. I am a flutter. Okay, I will say, listener, based on how people talked about this book, I expected there to be like way more sex than there was. Because we really only have like maybe 3 scenes, I think.
Yeah.
But it's...
Wow. They are majestic and they are vast. Is what they are.
Yeah. So she wakes up and Roan's there and she feels gross and she's like, I need a bath. And he's like, okay, I'll go get Rose to help you. And she says, no, I want you. And so they're in the bathroom and she is like, man, I look like...
standing in front of the mirror.
She says, I look like shit. And he says, you're beautiful to me. And then he says, you're all the best things to me, Sloan, no matter how many bruises are in your heart or on your skin. And they're making eye contact through the mirror as he's unbuttoning her shirt from behind her.
And they've already talked about the bruise on her eye. And she's like, what color is that? It's like eggplant. It's like the worst. It's the most squishy, gross vegetable. And he's like, no. And then as he's like unbuttoning her shirt, he says, it reminds me of all the best things, like irises, the most sweet smellingest flower. And what else? That's all I can remember.
Well, he says, and also you're wrong. The worst vegetable, celery.
Hard disagree. I like a celery.
And so he's like, they're making eye contact. And she's like, something caught your eye, pretty boy. And he's like, yes. God, yes, Sloan. All of you. And then she's naked. And he finally looks at her body. And he's like in horror at how beat she is. And he's like, okay, also, though, he's like, I need you to get in the bath or else I'm going to die. And she's like, she says, would that mean I'd get an extra win? He's like, I'm about ready to forfeit every game, Blackbird. I don't think we need to go to the extreme of killing me off just yet.
So he helps her into the bath, but now he's like not making eye contact with her. He refuses to look at her, and she can't look at anything but him. And she feels like he's detaching, and she can't stand it. And
she's just standing there naked. She hasn't actually gotten in the bath yet because she's like she's torturing him. And he says to her, I've been suffering for 4 years, Sloan. I'm begging you here. Like, get in the fucking bath. And immediately my brain record scratched because it was a number. And I was like, it's only been 3 years, though. Like I did that. And then in the book, she says that. She's like, technically 3 years. And he's like, 4 years. Harvey's place was yesterday, and that means we're in year 4 now, and it feels like 80. Get in the bath!
Yeah. So she does, and then she grabs his hand, and she starts, like, putting his hand on her body because she wants some sort of connection to him. And he's like, Sloan, we can't, like, you're injured. This is not a good idea.
It took everything in me just to get you undressed without bending you over at the bathroom counter and fucking you until you begged me to stop. Sir.
Yeah. And she's like, that actually sounds lovely. I don't know what your issue is. And so she puts his hand like all the way down onto her mound. Okay. What?
Hang on. That is not the order of this, very importantly.
Okay, please. Tell
He's
them
like
everything.
washing her and very careful not to touch her with like the rag. And then he's clearly devastated. He's talking about like, you're the thing I look forward to about this game. Like the game is fun, but it's seeing you that is important. And then she kisses him while she's sitting in the bath. And he's so tentative and careful with her.
And she hates that.
Yeah, and she takes his hand and like you said, she's running it all over like down and then she takes it to her nethers and then he pauses and he's like, Sloan, is that? My hand floats away as I let him explore. His fingers find my clit and the triangle piercing there and I bite down on my bottom lip. Then he moves to the symmetrical outer labia piercings and by the time he reaches the fourchette piercing, he's nearly vibrating with tension. Out of the fucking bath. And she's like, but you just told me to get in there. And he's like, get out of the fucking bath, Sloan. And she's like, but you just told me to get in. And he's like, out now.
Yeah.
Now.
Yeah. So she stands up and then he just picks her up, no towel, suds everywhere, walks out and puts her onto the bed. And he's like, get on the bed. And she's like, but I'll get it all wet. And he cuts her off. And he's like, do I look like I fucking care? Get on the bed, Sloan. And so she backs up. And then he says, spread them. And she's like, what? And he says, it's been 4 years. Spread your legs and show me what I've been missing.
And then he says, wider. Yeah. And then wider, Sloan. Stop trying to hide from me because I promise you it's not going to work. Yeah. And so she does. And then she like is showing him the piercings, like she's spread open, and he's like, tell me about the clit piercing. And so she does. And she's like, blah, blah, blah. I think it helped with orgasms. And he's like, you couldn't orgasm before. And they have this little conversation. And then she says, the last one.
Well, wait. I just want, this was really poignant for me because she got the clit piercing when she was 18. And it was sort of her taking control and power back over her body. And she couldn't come before because she says that she didn't have the right quote unquote situation. And it's because up until that point, she'd only been abused. And then after that, she got the labia piercings when she was 20. And she says, this probably doesn't make sense, but they reminded me of armor. And he says, no, that absolutely makes sense. And then she says, I got the fourchette piercing a few months before I met you because I thought a partner might like it. And he says, did a partner like it? And she says, I don't know. And he's like, why? Why don't you know, Sloan? She's like, he's like, don't hide from me. If you want me, you tell me everything. And she's like, because I only wanted you. After I met you, I've only wanted you since then. And I only want you. And then he launches himself at her.
And then he says, so he is down between her legs and he says to her, pick a safe word. Do it now. And she says, chainsaw. And his breathy laugh is a burst of warmth against my core. How fitting, love. Now be a good girl and find something to grab onto because I'm about to destroy you.
Oh my God.
Sir.
So he goes down on her like a fucking champion.
Yes.
Doing different techniques on different piercings and, talking dirty to her all throughout it.
Well, so we don't even see that, though, right there, do we?
Oh.
I don't think we do.
Maybe I'm confusing with another scene, but I don't know.
Oh my
I remember.
God, no. I accidentally closed the next. I have accordion things and I accidentally closed the next one. No, this is very important.
Yeah.
He goes down on her. He fingers her like a champ and she starts begging. She's like, please, Rowan, please. And he's like, I'll tell you what. Since you asked so nicely, I'll give you your first orgasm. It's just like a little treat. But by the end of this, you're going to scream and you better make noise for me. And she's like still being like quiet and like.
Yeah. Because she's in his brother's house and he needs to get up early to be in a hospital or something. Good God. And like oh my God, the praise in here. Like he's like, keep your eyes on me. That's such a good girl. Also, I will say, so sometimes it feels very forced, the praise in books. Like when I read it, like it feels like the good girl is just thrown in there for there to be a good girl in there, right? This felt very valid. It felt really natural. He gave her a task and she did it and then he would praise her. It was great. So after he goes down on her, he asks her if she's on some sort of contraception. She has an IUD. And so then he's like, you are going to look at me the whole time because both of us are going to remember every single second of this. And so he's like slowly penetrating her. And it says in his inner monologue, anytime the sensations get too much and she looks away or she feels like overcome or whatever, I just stop and I wait. And I wait until she looks at me and looks at where we're joined again, and then I'll keep going. Because I want this to be seared into both of our memories. Oh, and there was a really beautiful part, though, where when he got naked and she's looking at his body, which is covered in scars and tattoos, and she thinks to herself, there's art in our scars. There's wonder in the way we can heal. Or it's in his mind when that happens. And it was just, that was really poignant and beautiful. But she at one point says, no, for fuck's sake, no more other things, no more stopping. And he's like, no more stopping. As you wish, Blackbird. I'll make sure to not stop as requested. Oh my God. So, the dirty talk in this book is like top notch because he's like, God damn, Sloan, look at how desperate your cunt is to be ruined so fucking tight. It doesn't want to let me go. Yes. Wait, I think, doesn't it say something? It's either his name or like looking at him, but he says something like, because when I ruin you for every other man, I want you to remember that you asked for it. That's what it is. Isn't it like you need to beg me or something? Because when I ruin you for every other man, I want you to remember you asked for it. Oh my God. And like right before he really enters her, he says like, you better get ready because I'm going to destroy you. Like there is a lot.
And she says, fuck me, Rowan, please destroy me. Like,
yeah.
And then, oh my God, he says, she's everywhere in every drop of my blood, in every spark of thought, and I want to fucking destroy her for it, to shatter her just like she's broken me, because she brings me to my fucking knees. I want to ruin her so that she's mine, my beautiful disaster, my wild creature, my goddess of chaos, and I fuck her like that's exactly what I'm going to do. And then, y'all.
Now, he says to her that he's not an angel, but this goes past I'm not an angel. It's the best.
He comes in her, okay?
Yeah.
And then he pulls out and he's thinking to himself like, aw, precious baby. She thinks that we're done. Aw. So he pulls out of her. She is dripping both of their cum. And then he goes down on her and she contracts her muscles because it like feels good and it's unexpected. And he fucking collects
it up. He
on his tongue.
Up both of their cum, crawls up her body, and then she opens her mouth and he says, open your mouth, right?
He doesn't say anything. What he does is he's resting over her and he just taps one finger to her lips, like tap, 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 open wide. And then she does, and he spits all of it into her mouth and says, swallow.
And she does. He spits both of their cum into her mouth.
And then he says, you taste that, Blackbird? And she's like, yes. And he's like, you know what that is? And she shakes her head and he says, an appetizer.
Stop
and
it.
Now it's time for a fucking feast. Sir. Bryn Weaver, like I
honestly,
I have goosebumps right now.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, but here's the thing. And I don't know if this is everybody, and this might just be a Melody thing, but dude cum just tastes so bad.
I would agree, but like these kinds of situations, like this is one of those situations where the act is better than the taste, right?
No,
like,
totally. Yes.
So like, it tastes gross, but like the domination there is like
it's wild.
So then we zippy zap, right? And they are cock warming. He pulls her to the side and lays on his side, and he's still in her, and he's like, go to sleep, Blackbird, or don't. It's up to you, but I'm going to sleep like a fucking rock with my cock buried in your perfect pussy. And he does. This motherfucker goes to sleep.
He just knocks out.
And she's like,
I thought he would get soft at some point, she thinks to herself. Yes, she does think that.
No, I'm saying like, no, you're right.
No, he is not. Yeah. And so she finally is like, well, this is unbearable. And so she tries to like, stimulate her clit a little bit.
As I touch myself, I think about all of Rowan's fantasies he whispered while he fucked me.
Oh my God.
About taking me in a public place, about spreading me wide on a table at the restaurant and devouring me. Side note, cha-ching, cha-ching. Yes. About using my toy and my pussy as he fills my ass with cum. Cha-ching, 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 cha-ching.
Right now. And then he says, Sloane, seems like you're up to something over there. And she's like, what? No, not even. And then she won't say anything to him. And he says, I told you, you can't hide. And he says, I think you're thinking about all the things I said and whether they were promises or just fantasies. And she's like, how is he in my brain? Like, this is wonderful, but also scary. And he says, hold on just a minute, because I'm going to show you what they are. He gets up, goes over to her suitcase. As he's walking to her suitcase, she sees his back. And she's like, Rowan, did you? And he says, oh, are you asking if I got the raven you sketched for me tattooed on my back? Yeah, I did. I did do that. And she's like, why did you do that? And he says, well, I framed the one at the kitchen so I can look at it all the time there. but I can't carry it around with me. It might get damaged. So I figured, just put it on my back and it'll go everywhere with me. Then he rummages around in her goddamn suitcase and pulls out a vibrating dildo and a bunch of lube. And he comes over and he says, get on your knees because I'm going to show you right now that everything I said was a promise. Starting with filling your ass with cum as I fuck you with a toy.
Uh-huh. So he is like, she's like, you're right. You're no fucking angel. And he says, damn straight, and neither are you. Mm-mm. And then he puts that toy in her, and then he enters her, and they go at it. And he's like, I told you I was going to fuck your mouth, and I did. I told you I was going to eat your pussy at the restaurant like it's the best goddamn meal I've ever had, and I will. And I told you I was going to fill your ass with cum as I fucked you with a toy. And you know what happened when I said that? Your cunt gripped so tight around my cock that I thought I'd fucking explode.
Uh-huh.
And then she thinks to herself, so he's like fucking her and like going to town, and she thinks to herself, I'm incapable of stringing together a simple sentence, and this man is fucking me relentlessly while probably able to recite the entire year-by-year history of the Napoleonic Wars.
Well, because he says, I didn't answer your question though, really. And that's why she's thinking that. She's like, question? I have no idea what's happening. I don't know my name right now. And he says, you asked me why I tattooed your raven on my back. Why do you think I did that? And she's like, like me? And he says, like you. And he laughs. And he's like, you think that I tattooed myself with one of your sketches because I like you. You think that I tortured myself for 4 years with this game because I like you? No, Sloane. You are the most willfully obtuse person like ever.
And then he says, I would kill for you, and I have. I would do it again every damn day. I'd turn myself inside out for you. I would die for you. I don't just like you, Sloane, and you fucking know it.
Yeah. And then he says, and you don't just like me either. Mm-hmm. And she's like, it's not a question, but I have to make sure he knows. And so she's like, I think about you all the time, and my world has completely changed since you've entered it. And like, you're so important to me. And they just do this big declaration at each other.
Yeah. And at one point she says, you're braver than me. And he's like, no, Sloane, I'm just more reckless with less sense of self-preservation. So she asks him what he's scared of, and he's like, I'm scared of you destroying me and me destroying you. And she's like, I thought you were going to say something like long distance. Like, but you just went straight for destroy. And he's like, well, all of that other stuff, we can work through that. We just need to talk and do normal stuff.
And she's like, we're not really great at normal stuff. And he's like, that's why we're going to practice. It's fine. So the next morning, she wakes up before him, goes out, and she's like trying to apologize to everyone. Rose is not having it because she grew up at the literal circus, and so she can sleep through anything. And then the brothers are giving each other shit, and it's adorable. And then he says, I thought I told you no vigorous sports. And not Lachlan. Rowan goes, we weren't playing sports, friendo. We were having sex. And then he asks her if she has anybody at home to take care of her for the next few weeks. She needs to take some time off, he says. And she's about to say, yeah, Lark, but he cuts her off and he says, yeah, me. And she says, wait, you're coming home with me? And he goes, no, I'm taking you home to Boston. Mm-hmm. And so we basically Zippy Zac. I said Zippy Zac again. What's happening over here?
He's here. He's watching us. He's taking us from scene. Yeah. So we Zippy Zap to her being at the restaurant with Lark, 3 and Coach.
5 weeks later.
3 weeks, but yes. And
no, 5. They were home. She spent 2 weeks with him, right? And then she leaves. She says the 2 weeks I spent with Rowan wasn't enough. And so they decide to move in together. And then she was at home. Oh my God,
you just fixed the timeline. I literally have a note that says I'm very confused about the timeline right now. Because I was like, I can't believe he let her go after that for 3 weeks. And the answer is no. You're right. Okay. No. Oh my God, that makes so much more. Thank you so much, Mel.
Yeah.
I couldn't whimsy that. I was
welcome.
Like, fuck, what? Like, this
just
doesn't
stuck
make any
in your
sense.
brain. Mm-hmm.
But so they're in the house, they're at the restaurant, and we find out that as long as he's known Sloane, there's been a permanent reservation for her at table 12.
At her table.
There's a little list that says any reservation under the name Sloane Sutherland, a beautiful black-haired woman with hazel eyes and freckles, 5'8", probably alone, shy, looks like she wants to run. Inform Rowan immediately of any reservations under this name or any guests fitting this description. And then in red text, as though it was added at a later date. Immediately, I am not fucking around. And it's underlined like 8 times.
Oh my God. And he added that right after she came to his restaurant and nobody fucking told him. So Lark is there with her, basically like helping her move up and in and everything. And so she says like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this. Like my best friend is in love and I get to meet him for the first time. And Sloane is like, I didn't say anything about love. Like, let's cool it a tiny bit. And she's like, oh, come on. Like, look, he knows my baby. And she points over and she's like, that's your table. That's exactly the table you would choose. And she's like, holy fuck balls. That's bananas. And so he comes out of the kitchen and he just like throws his arms wide open and he says, Sloane, get in here. And they like meet each other in the middle of the restaurant and he just like holds her face and memorizes her features for a couple of seconds before giving her like a really sweet kiss, just a swift little peck, very polite, appropriate kiss. And then he and Lark have the best lunch together and she's like, I don't have many people, but I have Lark and I have Rowan. And I think they might like each other. Like, it's so nice. Her life is falling together, Sabrina.
It's so beautiful.
It's the best.
So then after lunch, he takes her on a little trip to go see something.
He has a job for her. She has to help him with something.
And he covers her face with his hands and they go meandering through the city a little bit. And then they get somewhere and he takes it off. And it is a beautiful, unopened restaurant named Butcher and Blackbird. And they go in and it's just gorgeous. There's a lot of description of it. And like, there's so many little touches that like his family, like about his brothers and her and the table that would be her seat and is her seat has wrought iron black raven feathers over it as art and like,
And like there's a bunch of art from local artists that has both ravens and it always has some sort of like butcher knife or meat cleaver or something because the whole restaurant is not about her, it's about them. He's been working on this for like over a year. Like he's been doing this for a long time, way before they started boning.
I have chills up my whole body.
I know. And so he says, what do you think? And she's like, and he goes, is this another man guy situation? Like, I really can't wait to see what you come up with. And then she goes, I love you, Rowan. I love you so much. And then he like stops and he's like, I love you, Sloane, so, 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 so much. And it's the best. And so then they go into the kitchen.
And they're cooking together because he needs a little bit of help. But then before dessert, he says, face the counter and pull up your dress. And she's like, okay. So she does. And then when he gets back with these already prepared desserts, we have another cock warming scene, listener. He fucking penetrates her and holds her against the freaking kitchen counter. That's the word. And
that's the one. Like,
and feeds her dessert.
Has her taste. Yeah. I'm sorry. Is this the sexiest thing that's ever happened in life?
Yeah, it's great.
I
And
asked
we can't even go into detail because somehow we still have to fucking motor.
Yeah.
Because this could be an 18-hour episode. So they had it's hot, okay? And then he tells her to go get on top of her table, and she goes out there, and then there's more hot sex.
Okay,
out there.
but I do have to take 30 seconds for this because he says, get on the table and lift up your skirt. And she looks over to the window and she's like, I just saw a lady walk by with her groceries. Nobody wants to see that. And he says, first of all, yes, they fucking do. And second of all, do I look like I fucking care? She's like, I guess not. So then he goes down on her like a champion. But what I have to say is, Rowan, you're a small business owner. You're a local small business owner. You should care about whether or not people see you putting other people's asses on tables people are going to eat on.
I'm sure he doesn't think that it matters because nobody's going to ever sit at this table but Blackbird. Nobody else knows that.
It's
but
nobody knows that.
Yeah. Well, and oh my God. And he says to her, well, when he goes down on her though, remember what I told you that you were going, and she's like, that you were going to devour me on a table in the restaurant. And he says, damn straight, Blackbird. And this is a meal I've been fucking dying for. And it's great. And then at the end, she asks for a napkin to clean up his cum off of the inside of her thighs. And he says to her, fuck no, he rasps as he finger fucks the cum back into me with slow thrusts. I meant what I said. You'll be walking home with that mess on your thighs, little bird. And then he withdraws his fingers and puts them in her mouth to clean them off again.
Uh-huh. And then I think this is now, he says, like, let's go home and do that again and again and again and again and again. She's like, great. Good Lord. So now we get to see, like, sort of a montage of their life together for a little while.
Yeah.
She's working from home at his house. He is still bananas working, 14 hours a day between the two restaurants. Shit is still going sideways at 3 and Coach, and, like, he doesn't understand why, but he's just trying to deal with it. Like, equipment's blowing up, things are stopping working, like, everything's just going wrong. And so, finally, it's opening night, and she has a reservation with all of his brothers and, like, everybody else at their table, but she's late. And he's been thinking to himself, like, his worst fear is him fucking this up and her running away. And so now this anxious boy, he's sitting there and he's like prepping food and he's like, no, she's never fucking late. Like, she could be in a wreck. There could be something wrong with her. Or you know what? No, I ruined it already. And she like packed up her shit and she went away and like she's gone now and I'm never going to see her again. She's going to disappear. And they're like, hey, chef, Sloan is here. And it's like, oh, okay, I can relax now.
And so when he gets a little bit of time, he goes out to do like a little speech and be like, thanks everybody for coming. And specifically, he raises a toast to my beautiful girlfriend, Sloan.
Oh my God.
When I was young, I collected every lucky charm I could find. I carried a rabbit's foot around everywhere. Don't ask Fionn where I got it. He'll never shut up. I couldn't understand why those talismans never changed my luck, so I stopped believing. But now I know. I was saving it all up to meet you, Blackbird.
Ichigo Ichi-E. Once in a lifetime, y'all. Yeah. Wait, but also, I loved that insertion because this is like one of the most romantic toasts we've ever read, right? But in the middle of it, Bryn Weaver does manage to slip in that he did the psychopathic serial killer thing as a kid.
Of killing animals.
Of being terrible to animals. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, oh.
It's so cute.
It's
and
so good.
It's like the day after, and he brings up the idea of them hunting together now instead of like as a competition, okay?
And he's a wreck.
Mm-hmm.
He's like tired and he's been on the go for almost a year and a half or whatever. And so he's not making words that are great.
He also hasn't
productive.
had coffee yet. He's not caffeinated and like,
yeah,
that's a mood. bro.
That's
That's
tough.
a big
tough.
mood. And so she makes a comment about like, well, it's fun to kick your ass though. And he says to her, I can't handle the stress of you possibly getting hurt on top of everything else right now. And she shuts down. She takes that as I'm a burden.
Yeah.
For good reason. I would have taken it that way too.
Yeah. I would have been wrecked with that small comment. That would have been rough.
Oh, absolutely.
Because she's also like, she just recently moved into his house. This isn't a situation where like he moved out and they got a place together. Like she has moved into his space. And so it makes sense why she would be a little bit sensitive to stuff like that, especially since like, you know, she feels like she's been trying so hard to create a sense of safety and rest that he has always created for her. But she worries that like when he says she's not the stressor, he's just lying to her. And that would make sense, right?
Yeah.
Because he also says like, I can barely handle doing the restaurants and like coming home and having a life with you, let alone adding on something like competing against you. And then he's like, wait, Blackbird, I did not mean it the way it sounded. And she's like, no, everything's fine. I'm just going to like look at some reviews and then I'm going to go out for coffee with the girls and everything is totally fine. I'm going to go shower. And he's like, fuck, stick. Like, he says, feckin' Egypt. And it's the best. So he's like, after your coffee with the girls or whatever, I have to go back to 3 and Coach because something broke after brunch. And so I have to fix that.
Again.
How about we meet at 4 and then we'll go out and we'll have drinks and we'll chat. Yeah.
I didn't Sherlock Holmes this at all.
So I did, but I was on the fence.
I was shocked
didn't know
by
if
this.
it was.
Well, so we'll get there. So Zippy Zac, he's at 3 and Coach to fix everything, right? And he walks in and David is there weirdly, like shaking and agitated in the corner. And like David doesn't talk.
He's rocking back and forth. Yeah.
Which like, that tracks. So like he does that when he is agitated. And so he doesn't, and he thinks it's because somebody is supposed to drive him home and it's the new guy and like the new guy didn't. Yeah, they forgot. And now he's been abandoned here.
He puts his arm on David's shoulder and he's like, thank Christ I came back here because I would hate the thought of you spending the night here. Like having to spend the night. That's awful. So you know what? I'm going to go sort out this fan thing. And then once Sloan gets here, we'll make sure to get you home and we'll get you all set.
Can I tell you how fucking backwards I was actually?
Yes,
I thought
please.
that the new guy who forgot to drive David was the problem.
No.
Yeah.
What?
Because specifically because of the comment of he's been here for only a couple of months and like that's kind of when everything started going shit town. Like I thought it was the new guy and that was going to suddenly become a thing.
That would make sense, yeah. I thought it was either going to be the doctor they've thought about killing all book and keep on
he was
referencing,
a possibility too.
Or David. I was like, I don't trust this David. I don't know about him. So I was still on the fence, but
well, I'll tell you I'll tell you when I figured out it was David.
Oh, please. I'm so excited. So as he's coming out of like, you know, the fan room or whatever, he feels a gun on the center of his forehead. And it says, "The Butcher of Boston. I've waited so long for this moment. And your little orb weaver is on her way too." And he says, as much as I love the idea of spending time all together, I really want some one-on-one time with you. And so you are going to get rid of her, or I will kill you in front of her, and I will love
I will kill her. Yeah,
that's what
kill
I
her
said.
in front of you. You said him in front of her.
Okay. I will kill her in front of you. Yeah. And I will love making you watch.
Big backwards.
No. Bad idea. Yeah.
By the way, I still have no idea.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we've never heard David's voice.
Doesn't matter.
He's never spoken at all.
And why would I not assume it's him? There's no comment about how worried he is about David in the corner or anything like that. No idea. So
That's true.
we zippy zap to Sloane's POV.
This chapter is called Keys. I loved it.
Yeah. So she is reminding herself the restaurant is like one of the most important things to him, and she has keys to it. And it means so much to her.
Yeah. And the only other person she's ever had keys for is Lark.
Mm-hmm.
And so she's like, this is huge because it's not just Rowan either. It's a joint venture like with all three brothers, and it means so much to all three of them. And so it's huge that she has the honor of being a person who holds keys. So she goes in, and he is standing at a counter looking real upset, wrecked, not okay. And she's like, hey, is everything all right? And he white fangs her hard.
He white fangs her so hard.
Wow. He's like, you need to go home. And she's like, okay, yeah, no, absolutely. I'll go meet you back at the apartment. And he's like, no, you need to go back to Raleigh because I can't do this anymore. I told you I just wanted like a simple life and I can barely handle the restaurants and you are so much and whatever. And so by the time she finally believes that he's breaking up with her, she says,
what
okay,
makes
fine,
me
I will
unlovable?
leave. Tell me what makes me unlovable.
And he says, because you're a fucking psycho. That's why. Like, you kill people and cut bits off of them and make an elaborate show of stringing out some batshit crazy map that no one can figure out but you. Then you gouge out their fucking eyes and make them into decorations. I know I'm no fucking saint, but that shit is next level insane. You're going to crash and burn. You'll take me with you if I let this keep going, so you need to fucking leave. When I tell you my heart broke into 80,000 different pieces, especially because, and I did notice when he was talking to her though, I was like, I picked up on the 10th or the 13th thing, like all of the little hints that he was dropping in this conversation, I 10,000% picked. I was like, that's fucking weird. I did Sherlock Holmes. I was so fucking proud of myself.
Yeah. So I don't remember the passage verbatim, but the important thing about what Sabrina was just saying is that he's telling her about events that happen, but he's putting them on the wrong dates. And he's telling her things. He's saying, I said this thing to you at this time when he absolutely did not. And so she is not seeing it right now. But she ends up leaving and she goes home. She drops his keys on the counter to the restaurant, goes home, and she's going to pack up. She's telling Winston, like, I don't care if you fucking hate me, you cat. I'm taking you back to Raleigh because I will not leave alone. And then she's like, if I'm going to get on a plane, I'm going to look like $10 million. So she takes a shower and she blow dries her hair and she does her makeup. I'm telling you this because it's very important in just a minute. And then she gets on the phone with Lark and tells her about it. And as Lark is talking it through with her, it makes her reflect more closely on the conversation. And she's finally like, wait a second, that doesn't make any sense. What?
Very importantly, we found out way earlier in the book that, like, a little fucking creepy stalker, she installed a secret camera in the fucking kitchen at 3 and Coach.
This was, oh my God, yes. It was when Lark and she were at 3 and Coach about to have their first lunch with Rowan. And that's when she says, I didn't say anything about love. And Lark looks at her and says, babe, you installed a secret camera in your kitchen. And she goes, that's not love, that's stalking. And she's like, close enough. That's how we found out, which is just fucking chef's kiss.
It's also like on brand, right?
Oh, yeah. It's so good. So she's like, holy fuck, something is wrong. Something is very wrong. So she checks her feed. And that's when she sees.
That's when I found out it was David Miller. Because she says out loud, she hangs up on Lark and she calls Lachlan. And she's like, you have the 12 blocks it takes me to run to get me everything you can on David Miller. And actually, honestly, Mel, even then I was like, who the fuck is David Miller?
This is David Miller. Wow,
he was so I was like, man, was that the doctor's name? And I just totally forgot. And then literally one paragraph later on the next page, we see David. Lobotomy David, right?
Lobotomy David.
And I was like,
Dishwasher David.
Oh my God. It's Dishwasher Dave. That's the killer.
Yeah.
I was like, that's when I got it. It was when it was stated on page.
Because now he's like speaking flawlessly. There's nothing wrong with this man other than he's also a serial killer. He's the slasher of Fort Lauderdale or something.
So he is literally, this had me gagging. He is literally filleting the skin off of Rowan. He has him tied up in a chair and is like rubbing it over his face, like taste yourself. And then he's eating it raw.
Because he got a taste for it at Thurgood's house or whatever, Thorsten's house. And so he's like, yeah, I really got a taste for it there. And then he adds a bunch of Rowan's blood to his glass of wine. And
by literally
like, just the iron. Yeah.
I can't talk.
The iron addition it adds to the wine is just perfect.
This book is so fucking gory and graphic. I don't know why this. I think it's because we're getting the characters feel. This is like
it's in real time.
The other stuff is in very much real time, Melody. The difference is it's in his head, and we are in his head as it's
he's
happening.
The victim.
Yes,
that's what it is.
And so
we're in the victim's head.
We're hearing how he feels and like how it's it's awful. So we find out that originally what happened is David noticed that every August a big name serial killer was dying. And so he went out to California to hang out with Thorsten and like buddied up to him to use him as a buffer. And he was like, you have those two people coming over. What if I just like pretend to be your, like essentially
your servant.
Brain dead servant.
Well, so now my question is, was that all theater? Like, because she saw the bruising, she saw the lobotomy, pinpricks in his eyes. Was all of that just like makeup? Do you think?
I mean,
Wild.
I didn't realize that he had, I whimsied the fact that he had markings, like visible markings other than bruises, which bruises go away, obviously. So,
right.
Yeah, but like all of this is acting. He's been putting on a mask for a year and a half.
Yes, that part of it, sure. It was like the actual stage makeup that threw me. You know what I mean?
And so like he and Thorsten basically buddied up, and he didn't tell Thorsten that he suspected he was going to be hunted and he didn't know that they were going to be hunted because guess what? Worst comes to worst. Oh no, those two people aren't actually the people here to kill Thorsten, aren't actually here to kill a serial killer, and we just get to kill them and eat them. So like win-win, you know what I mean? Like I survive or we get to eat a tasty human. But what happened is he became obsessed with Sloane because she was so kind to him, and he wanted to like obliterate that.
He says, she did something for me that not many people would. And basically he tells Rowan after he's done with him, he says, do you think that she'd be cool with like, being with somebody like me? And Rowan is like, what the fuck? And he says, it doesn't matter. Like, if she doesn't want to, I'll just like force her. Or he says, maybe I'll play the long game. It's tough.
Make her trust me. Maybe I'll make a semi-miraculous recovery. And he's saying all of this out loud to Rowan, and it's gross. And then he talks about how like maybe what I'll do is I'll just follow her back to Raleigh and feed her a goodie bag of you.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
And so he is like, either way, like it's just a nightmare. And then he turns around to look at his table of like kill tools, and he notices that something is missing. And then he hears.
Yeah, he like pauses.
And then we hear, you looking for something, David? And it's Sloane, and she's holding his gun. And she like starts flirting with him.
Yeah, she makes him believe that, like, she realized that Rowan was not the right partner for her because of all the shit he just told her. And so she's like, David, I think that you and I need to be, like, the team up, And they end up, like, chatting, and this is where we get a lot of the story about, like, what he did with Thorsten and all of that kind of thing. Go ahead. And his heart is
take care of her. Like he's going to do brutal things to you, Sloane. And she looks him dead in the face and says, oh, you mean like maybe he'll wax poetic while pounding balls deep into my ass? Is that the kind of thing you're thinking of? Because I think I've shown I can handle that. And he feels like
Wowza.
he says, every pain in my body is eclipsed by the one in my chest as my heart incinerates. And so she basically tells David, like, we can have a fun night on the town and you have the gun back because I don't really like guns. They're too flashy. They're too noisy. They're just not very demure, you know? And then he goes to grab the gun and she knocks his feet out from under him and has her scalpel out and it hits him like just below the Adam's apple. And as he falls, it slices all the way up to his chin. And she holds him there and looks at him. And she says, I don't really like guns. I said that. And then she pulls it out and stabs him in the eye with her scalpel and lets him fall.
Yeah.
And then Rowan's trying to talk to her, and she calls Lachlan to be like, hey, you can send the people to like do the cleanup. I don't need the reinforcements. I got this shit. And he says, thank you for looking after my brother Sloan. And she says, log out of my video feed. I don't want you to watch in case I change my mind and kill him myself. And Lachlan's
That's
like,
right.
do me a favor and just give him a
Cool
big
beans.
sloppy kiss instead.
Yeah. So she unties him and he's like, Sloan, are you okay? He's trying to figure out. And she's like, are you okay? Jesus. And she's so mad at him still. And she's so hurt. And he just like wants to make it better. He doesn't know what to say or do. But he says that he's really sorry. And she says, I'm so sorry. It took me so long to put together your clues. Because let's review. She showered. She did her own blowout. She did all her makeups. She did all the business.
Okay, hang on though, Sloan. You
back.
want to know what is better? That is better than you decided to get Hot Mess Express on a plane. Can you imagine if she'd realized this on the plane? Because like she could have just walked to an airport and bought a ticket, you know? Oh, and then he tells her, you have never been unlovable. You were just waiting for someone who will love you for who you are.
And I will do that if you'll let me. It's the best. Okay, so now we flash forward. They're together. We flash forward to the next August. And the most perfect thing in the world happens in this chapter. Oh, no, before that. No, before that. I'm so sorry.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the tattoo. They decide
that they're going to cover... No, they decide that he's going to cover the scars on his forearm with a tattoo. And so he doesn't know what he's getting because Sloan has designed it and then like worked with the tattoo artist to like make it perfectly fit to his arm. And so they do this whole tattoo. She blindfolds him for it because she doesn't trust him not to look. And then when he gets up and looks, it's a raven holding like a butcher knife or something against like a bunch of like sort of graffiti style pops of color. And he looks at her and he says, he's like, color, Sloan? And she's like, yeah, I guess you just bring it out of me. And it's like the most special thing in the whole wide world because she hasn't used color in her art since she was abused.
So I have a question, Mel. Blackbird.
Okay.
Perfectly good nickname. Perfectly cute pet name. It's wonderful. It's adorable, right? She
Butcher
regularly
Is that what
calls him Butcher as a nickname pet name. And I'm like, that feels a little long.
I mean, he named an entire restaurant and like openly tells people that it's about them.
I know. They're bad serial killers is what I'm saying, I guess.
They're really bad at this.
They're so bad at being serial killers.
I'm just so glad that Bryn Weaver's cops are even worse, you know?
Yeah.
That's what I'm excited about.
Yeah. In this universe, like, they're just...
Yeah.
Not that like the serial killer arrest rate is like that high in reality. You know what I mean? Like...
Totally.
But it's better than this universe, I think.
Yeah, for sure. So now we zippy zap to the next August. And they are in the middle of a joint kill. They kill that doctor that they've been talking about the whole book. She's upped her game in the topographical map section of her crime.
She's using color.
that she hand dyes herself, which has to be covered in so much DNA. I just can't. Anyway, she hand dyes these strings herself. And so each layer of the thing is like different colors blended together. And he's like, oh, the FBI, it's going to be even harder for them to figure out it's a map. And she's like, oh, you'd think it'd be easier. And then he says, they're going to be so confused, though, because you're not devolving, you're evolving. Mm-hmm. And like, this is crazy. But the one thing that like just continues to be the same, God, Sloan, look at that left eye. Ugh. And she's like,
no, hang on. He doesn't even say, look
eye?
At the left eye. She knows exactly what he's talking, because she looks at the body and she's like, no. Oh. And he's like, he just like raises his eyebrows and he's like, and she's like, it is not gougy. And he's like, it's a little gougy still.
It's a little gougy. So he's like, take this, step stool, go over there. I just want you to take a real good look at the left eye. So she looks in and she's like, what the fuck is this? And pulls out like a small saran wrapped package from the eye. And she's like, what is this? And he's like, oh, did you find some? Oh, why don't you open that up? But like, be careful, because there's like life-changing paperwork in there. And she's like, but the paperwork, like this is so small. So she's unwrapping it, being really careful, getting the blood off of everything as she goes. And she pulls out the napkin that he wrote the original rules on for their game every year. And then he's like, oh, shoot, I need to add something to that. Hand it to me and then open the other thing. And so he's writing on this napkin as she's opening this other little package. And he hands it back to her. And at the end, it's like a to-do list almost. And the last one is, marry Sloan Sutherland and love her for the rest of her life if she'll let you. And she's like,
and then he drops down on one knee.
She opens, and the ring was also in the eye socket. And so she goes, Rowan, did you just, what?
He says, you seem excited, love. Because she's like babbling and he's like, shh, 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 shh. Man guy is trying to propose here. And she's like, Rowan. And he says, oh, God, this is the most perfect proposal. He says, Sloan Sutherland, my beautiful Blackbird, from the first moment I met you, you changed the course of my life. I can't remember anything being fun or exciting or new without you. I can't remember feeling anything but numb until you burst into my world in your smelly little cage of orzo pastas. I can't envision the future without you in it, and I don't want to. Not ever. So marry me, Sloan, and we'll go on crazy adventures forever and fuck shit up and be best friends and do karate in the garage and make love every day and grow old together, because I can't imagine I'd rather spend all those moments with anyone other than you.
Ooh.
Orzo pastas in her smelly little cage, Mel.
Oh my God. And so she says, Rowan, did you just propose with a ring that you left in a man's eye socket? And he's like, yes. In my head, it was really spot on. But I guess in reality, it could be like you too much. And she shakes her head and he's like, not enough? She shakes her head. She's like, it's perfect. It's my dream proposal.
This is one of the most perfect on point proposals I've ever. When I listen, y'all, yes. Rowan is so.
This is so romantic.
This is like the most romantic thing I've ever heard.
Wow, everybody.
5 stars, listener, and then just
5 stars.
A little important. There's a little epilogue with the Phantom. The Phantom's here in Boston.
I have a question for you, because he says, Rowan Kane killed my brother, and so I'm determined to take his. Mm-hmm. Do you think that the brother is the West Virginia guy? He also killed people on hiking trips.
I thought it was West Virginia guy.
Yeah, I thought so. That's what I think.
Like, it's definitely not. It's definitely not Texas Chainsaw Timu. And it's definitely not the dude. It's not Thorsten. David. It's not Thorsten. Unless it's somebody we didn't see them kill or him kill. Sure. That's entirely possible. But of the people that we watch get killed in this book, it's
I thought it was West Virginia
definitely
motel guy.
West Virginia motel guy. Especially like I could totally see it because I could very much see that's the little brother he always took care of and watched out for because he's a shitty, like he's kind of a little worm, right? If he's the brother, he's the one to protect. And you fucking took out my sweet little baby brother.
Yeah. Yeah, the little weasel. I'm going to take your brother.
Your big contract weasel.
Yeah. All right, Sabrina, what is your lady love?
My lady love is a couple of months ago. I had some changes in my finances that I needed some assistance with. Probably last December or so, one of the HBs, Kate, did a little Zoom thing because she is like a financial educator. And a bunch of HBs went. It was super cute in the comments last year because it was like a bunch of us like, we're all here from HBs. We're so happy. Also, like you taught us a lot. A couple of months ago, I realized that I needed some help. And so I started working with her.
Because she does one-on-one financial coaching.
I feel so well taken care of. And like, she is so intelligent and she's so kind and non-judgmental. Like, and the I've asked her the stupidest fucking questions and it's never like, I never feel judged for it. And she's just having her by my side, helping me through all of like with everything and like figuring everything out and
prioritizing.
Yeah, like that's a big thing for me is like I just didn't know. The thing is like I've always had good intentions with my money, but I didn't have good examples growing up. And so it's hard to do that, right? And I've never had a partner that's been good at it. And so just having her there basically holding my hand and being like, this is what we're going to do. This is what we're going to do next. Like, it's been great. Hey, y'all. So my lady love this week is Miss Moody Money. If you need some financial coaching, go fucking check her out. We'll throw her link in the show notes. Like I'm not kidding when I say it's changed my life. She came in at just the right time. And that's my lady love. Thank you,
and
Kate.
You had the wisdom to take her up on her service.
Yeah. Like, thank you, Kate. You're my lady love. Miss Moody Money, y'all. It's so fucking good. Wonderful. Anyway, what's your lady love, Mel?
My lady love is... sometimes you need stuff in order to organize. Not all the time. But we built this garage and very quickly, because of like some different things, it's gotten to the point that we can't quite park in it. Just because like there are bikes, there's a wheelbarrow, there's like all the business, right? And so I finally bit the bullet. And I've got a bike rack coming in that I'm going to be able to put the bikes on the wall. And I got a shelf with like 4 big giant bin things so that I can actually organize tools and stuff and put them on a shelf. And I'm just very excited about it because I need to park in that fucking garage that we spent money building. So that is exciting.
But if you park in there, you can't roller skate in there anymore.
I know, but I'm not doing that enough either. So
fair.
I'm not even taking advantage that way because there really is so much stuff. There's like an outdoor sofa in there for some goddamn reason. Like it's a mess. So sometimes you really, if you need a shelf, bite the bullet and get the fucking shelf. You got to do it. If you want bikes on the wall, you got to get a thing that puts those bikes on the wall. Is what I'm saying.
I want pictures.
So that
sounds amazing. I can't wait to see your final, finished, organized product.
I'm stoked
I'm such
about
a
it.
slut for organization stuff, like organization tools. Oh, it's so good.
Yeah. I've already got one bin, and it's all fertilizers and seed starting equipment. Ooh, boy.
Do you just like why you're like
everybody's excited about it?
Stay out of the garage. That's where my porn is. Like,
yeah.
quote Melody Carlisle. All right, listener.
Yes.
Keep being a badass and love yourself as much as you love orzo pasta.
Ooh, those orzos, those little marching orzos. Ooh. All right, bye.
Mel, I just need you to know, I've been holding on to that since the very, I was like, I know exactly what to keep being a badass and love yourself as much as you love it. I know it. And I'm not going to forget it.
Genius.
I'm not going to. I was like, it's got to be orzo pasta. All right. Bye.
All right, bye. Heaving Bosoms is produced by us, Melody Carlisle and Sabrina Bradley. Editing is done by me, Melody Carlisle. Our theme music is by the incredible singer-songwriter Brittany Fonts, and our art is by the ultra-talented author Kate Pryor. She has a release that just came out. It's called Mated to My Ex, and it is a second chance divorced werewolf romance that I'm so excited about. If you like our show, remember to follow us on your favorite podcast app, rate us 5 stars, and leave a review. If you want to get in touch about advertising or anything else, you can email us at heavingbosompodcast@gmail.com. And if you want more of us, visit patreon.com/heavingbosomspodcast. You can also find us on Instagram at Heaving Bosoms, on TikTok at Heaving_Bosoms, and in our Facebook group, the Heaving Bosoms Geriatric Friendship Cult. Okay, we are going to be back next week with Polyamorous Romance Triple Sec by TJ Alexander. See you then!